Before everything, his name was Heinrich Müller. Not a special name. Not a name that makes history. Just a boy from Hamburg. 22 years old. Brown hair. Quiet eyes. The kind of person who listened more than he spoke. He had two things he cared about in the world. The first was Clara. The second was his best friend, Dieter. He had known both of them since childhood. The three of them grew up on the same street, went to the same school, shared the same summers. Dieter was loud where Heinrich was quiet. Reckless where Heinrich was careful. And Clara. Dark hair. Serious eyes. The kind of girl who read books in the garden and said exactly what she thought without apology. Heinrich had loved her since he was 16. He told her at 18. She looked at him for a long moment, that serious look, and then she smiled. That smile had been everything. The night before, August 1941, the three of them sat together one last time. Dieter was going too. Same unit. Same train. Same war. Clara sat between them at the kitchen table. Her hands were around a coffee cup. She wasn't drinking it. She was looking at Heinrich. And Heinrich, in that moment, felt something he had never felt before, a specific, quiet terror. Not of the war. Not of dying. Of losing this. Exactly this. This table. This light. Her hands around that cup. Under the table, she found his hand. He held it so tightly it must have hurt. She didn't pull away. He looked at Dieter. Dieter was looking at Clara. Something moved across his face fast, like a shadow crossing water. There and gone. Heinrich saw it. He filed it away somewhere he didn't look at. Because he trusted Dieter with his life. And he was leaving in the morning. And sometimes you choose not to see things because seeing them would break something you need to stay whole. Clara, Hamburg, winter 1942. What no one tells the women is this: waiting is its own kind of war. Clara waited. She read his letters until the paper thinned at the folds. She wrote back every week carefully, honestly, telling him about ordinary things because she understood that ordinary things were what kept a man human when nothing around him was ordinary. She meant every word she wrote. That is important. She meant every word. But then the winter came. And the letters slowed. And the city was cold and the nights were very long, and Dieter, who had been wounded in October and sent back to Hamburg to recover, Dieter came to her door one evening with 2 cups of coffee and said nothing, just sat with her in the silence of the apartment. He came back the next evening. And the next. He didn't speak about Heinrich. Not at first. He just was there. When everything else was absence, he was presence. Clara knew what was happening. She wasn't naive. She wasn't weak. She was a woman alone in a cold city, watching the news and waiting for a name she was afraid to hear. She told herself it was gratitude. She told herself it was grief shared. She told herself many things over those months. Some of them were even true. The night Dieter kissed her, she pushed him away. Walked to the window. Stood there for a long time. She thought of Heinrich's face. His quiet eyes. The way he held her hand at the table. Too tight. like he already knew. "Come back," she had written. "Just come back." She pressed her forehead against the cold glass. And she wept. Not from love. Not from guilt. From something worse than both. The terrible, shameful, deeply human relief of not being alone. She married Dieter in February. She told herself Heinrich might not come back anyway. She told herself many things. And she lived with all of them. The Eastern Front. Russia broke men. Not quickly. Slowly. Heinrich wrote to Clara every week. He wrote carefully. He told her about the cold and the mud, but never the worst of it, the things that woke him at 3 in the morning, the faces he couldn't leave behind. He wrote, "I think about you every morning. You are the reason I keep moving." Dieter fought beside him. He kept Heinrich alive through the first winter, literally pulled him from the snow once, when Heinrich's legs had stopped working and the cold had become something beyond cold. "Not today," Dieter said. "You don't die today." Heinrich believed him. He still trusted him. God help him, he still trusted him. The letters that stopped. 6 months in, Clara's letters slowed. Heinrich told himself it was the post. Then they slowed more. Then they stopped. He wrote anyway. Every week. Into the silence. Dieter said nothing. But sometimes in the evenings Heinrich would catch him reading something, folding it quickly when he noticed Heinrich watching. Heinrich said nothing. He chose, again, not to see. The letter. Spring 1943. From his mother. She was a careful woman, measured, precise. But she was his mother. Clara married Dieter in February, she wrote. "I didn't know how to tell you. I'm so sorry, Heinrich. I'm so sorry." He read it once. Folded it. Put it in his breast pocket. Picked up his rifle. Went back to work. He didn't cry. He didn't rage. He didn't speak. Just silence. Complete, absolute silence. Like a door closing. A lock turning. And the person behind that door, the quiet boy who listened more than he spoke, who had held a hand too tightly at a kitchen table because he already knew. That person did not come out again. The first time. 3 days after the letter. They were moving through a forest. A Russian soldier, young, maybe 17, was caught in the open. Wounded. Couldn't run. He looked up at Heinrich's unit with his hands slightly raised, not quite surrendering, not quite anything. The soldier beside Heinrich hesitated. Heinrich didn't. Afterward, that soldier looked at Heinrich. He wasn't armed, he said. Heinrich looked back at him. No, he said. That was all. He kept walking. The soldier stood there for a moment. Then followed. Because what else do you do? That night Heinrich sat alone. He waited for something to come, guilt, nausea, the weight of it. Nothing came. And the absence of feeling was the most frightening thing that had ever happened to him. More frightening than the war. More frightening than the letter. He pressed his hand flat against his chest. Felt his heartbeat. Still there. Still beating. He didn't know if that was a comfort or a cruelty. what he became. The officers noticed first. Heinrich had always been steady, careful, reliable. But after the letter, something shifted. He stopped hesitating. Where others paused, Heinrich moved. Where others flinched, Heinrich was already done. They promoted him. What they didn't see or chose not to was what drove it. Not courage. Not duty. The simple, quiet fact that he no longer cared what happened to him. And a man who doesn't care what happens to him is the most dangerous thing on a battlefield. The Village. October 1943. Ukraine. Orders came. The village was suspected of sheltering resistance. It was to be dealt with. The officer in command hesitated at the edge of it. Heinrich walked forward. He gave the orders. Carried them out. Didn't look away. Afterward, a young soldier was sick in the dirt. Heinrich stood over him. Get up, he said. Flat. Empty. No anger, no contempt, no feeling of any kind. The young soldier looked up at him. And what he saw in Heinrich's eyes, or rather, what he didn't see, made him more afraid than anything that had just happened in that village. Because there was nothing there. Just absence. A man who had decided, at some point, that feeling was a luxury he could no longer afford. And had kept that decision. One night. Winter 1944. Heinrich sat alone in the dark. He took out his mother's letter. Clara married Dieter in February. Then he took out another letter. Older. Much older. Clara's handwriting. I think about you every evening. I stand at the window and look east. I don't know which direction you are, but I look anyway. Come back, Heinrich. Just come back. He read it. His face didn't move. But his hands. For just a moment, his hands were shaking. Very slightly. Like something still alive behind a locked door. Still pressing. Still there. He looked at those hands for a long time. He was afraid. Not of the war. Not of dying. Of the shaking. Because the shaking meant something was left. And whatever was left could still be hurt. And he couldn't afford that. Not here. Not now. Not anymore. He pressed his hands flat against the table. Waited until they were still. Stood up. Walked back into the war. Dieter. April 1945. The front was collapsing. Everything was coming apart, units scattered, orders stopped making sense, the whole massive machinery of it grinding toward its own end. And in that falling apart, Heinrich found Dieter. Separated from his unit. Alone. Lost. They stood facing each other in a ruined street. Heinrich looked at him for a long time. Dieter opened his mouth. Heinrich, I don't, Heinrich said. Quiet, completely quiet. Dieter looked at him, really looked at him, and understood, fully and finally, what 2 years had made of the boy he'd grown up with. I loved her, Dieter said. Before you did. I just never said it. I know, said Heinrich. Silence. Are you going to? I'm not going to do anything, Heinrich said. He said it without heat. Without bitterness. without the satisfaction of a man who has decided to be merciful. He said it the way you say something that simply doesn't matter anymore. And that absence of heat, that complete and total indifference was crueler than anything else he could have done. Because Dieter understood. Heinrich hadn't forgiven him. He hadn't decided to be the bigger man. He had simply looked at him, at this person who had been his closest friend, who had known every story, who had pulled him from the snow and said, "You don't die today." And found that he felt nothing. Not anger. Not grief. Not even contempt. Nothing. And Dieter, who had spent 2 years carrying guilt like a stone in his chest, understood that the worst punishment he would ever receive was this, that he no longer mattered enough to Heinrich to be worth hating. "Go west," Heinrich said. "Surrender to the Americans. Go home." He turned away. "And Clara," Dieter said. Heinrich stopped. "One breath. 2. Take care of her," he said. He walked back into the collapsing front without looking back. The end. They found Major Heinrich Müller in April 1945. Not dead. Sitting in a ruined building on the outskirts of Berlin. Rifle across his knees. Watching the sky. He didn't resist. He sat with his hands on his knees and waited for whatever came next with the same absolute stillness he had brought to everything. The American officer wrote in his report, "Cooperative. Polite, even. No remorse. No distress. No emotional response of any kind. The most unsettling prisoner I have encountered, not because he was violent, but because of the complete absence of anything behind his eyes. When I asked if there was anyone we should notify, he thought about it. For quite a long time, actually. Then he said, 'No. There's no one.' And looked back at the wall. I believed him. That was the saddest part. I believed him completely. What was left? In his pocket they found 2 letters. One from his mother. One from a woman named Clara. Old. Folded many times. The paper soft from handling. The officer started to read. Then stopped. Put them back. Some things don't belong to anyone else. Hamburg, 1946. Dieter came home. Clara was waiting. They built a quiet life. Careful. Piece by piece. The way people build things over ruins without speaking too much about what's underneath. One evening Clara found Dieter at the kitchen table. He was holding a photograph. 3 children on a summer street. 2 boys and a girl. Laughing. She sat beside him. A long silence. "Do you think he's alive?" she said. Dieter looked at the photograph. "I don't know." A lie. He knew. He had seen Heinrich's eyes in that ruined street. He had heard his voice say, "Take care of her," with nothing behind it. No love. No pain. No heat of any kind. He knew. Clara put her hand over his. "I never stopped," she started. "I know," Dieter said. She looked at him. "Do you?" He didn't answer. Because the honest answer was yes. He had always known. That was the thing he lived with. Not that she had chosen him, but that she had chosen him the way a person chooses warmth over cold in the middle of winter, not from love, but from survival. And that he had led her, had encouraged it, had been there at just the right moment, in just the right way. He had won. And the winning had cost him something he hadn't expected to miss. The ability to look at his own reflection without looking away. What happened to Heinrich? Nobody knows exactly. The records are incomplete. The post-war chaos swallowed many men whole. Some say he was released from a prison camp in 1947. Some say he went east, into the Soviet zone, and was never processed at all. One account unverified places a man matching his description in a small town in Bavaria in 1948. Standing on a bridge, looking at the water for a very long time, then walking away, not looking back. Heinrich Müller, born in Hamburg, loved one person, trusted one person, lost both on the same day, and spent the rest of the war becoming someone neither of them would have recognized. The worst thing war does is not kill men. It turns them into people who no longer need reasons. And the worst thing betrayal does is not break the heart. It breaks the part of you that believed breaking was possible. And after that, nothing can reach you anymore. Not even the things worth reaching for.